If you're hoping to prepare yourself to lead an LDS Transitions group, then this video is the right place to start. This is the first in a whole training series about how to lead transitions. Now, I encourage you to look at all the videos. They're all important. And also to not go through this process alone. It's best if you look at these with a mentor or with a co-leader so that you get full advantage of the discussion elements in each lesson that go along with the material presented in the video. Now, the very best way, the ideal way to prepare to lead transitions is to participate as an apprentice to an existing leader in an existing group and help that person learn the ropes by doing it in the group. So this series of videos, coupled with your experience helping in transitions, is the very best possible pathway to prepare yourself to lead. Now, the very first thing I want you to consider is that you need to understand the purpose of transitions. The purpose of transitions is to help people making the difficult journey from Mormon faith and Mormon culture to a new kind of faith and a new church culture. And so a transitions group provides a great environment for people to meet others who are on the journey along with them, to ask questions they might have, to share their struggles and their obstacles, all within the context of the transitions curriculum. The curriculum has two parts, and I really encourage you to make sure you've been through it or that you're very familiar with it before you lead. The first part, lessons 1 through 3, deals with what I call the journey issues, trying to figure out a new identity, trying to find new community, resolving difficult relationships, a sense of loss, a sense of trust that people deal with on their way out of Mormonism. And the second part, sessions 4 through 6, reframe our understanding of reality. You know, those familiar questions that Mormons ask. Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going? We reframe those in a new way based on biblical truth so people have a new sense of understanding reality. Now, you can find the resources to support transitions at ldstransitions.com. That's where you can order the workbooks and the videos. There's some helpful tips there on how to run your class, and you can always contact them if you have questions about the course. So hopefully that will help you understand the purpose of transitions. But I also want to make sure that you get the idea that you really need to cultivate the right attitude in order to lead. Let me just quickly touch on 5 attitude issues or character traits that will help prepare you to be able to lead a transitions group or to lead any group for that matter. The first is we want you to be transparent, that you're honest about your own journey. After coming out of Mormonism, it's important that people see you model not perfection, but modeling redemption and grace. The second thing is we want you to be accountable, that you're willing to learn from anybody and take suggestions, feedback from people, but also that you're accountable in your church, that there's someone who's overseeing your ministry that you're answerable to. That's a protection for you. And then the third thing is we want you to be humble. You don't have to be the expert. You don't have to have all the final answers. But take the posture of a learner and learn whatever you can from the experience of others in the group. And also keep abreast of developments in Mormonism. Now, always verify what you hear, but it's helpful for you to understand that things that people might be going through in the life of your group. And then the fourth thing is we want to encourage you to be obedient to God yourself, that you're living a life that honors God, that models obedience not out of a heart of legalism, but out of a heart of love for God. And then the fifth thing is we want to encourage you to really be dependent on God and to have confidence in God, not in yourself. Now, there's your part and God's part, and there's certain things that God has delegated to you to do in the life of the group, but there's certain things that only God can do. Only God can transform anyone, can change anyone's mind, or bring about a lasting difference in people's lives. And so that's good to remember when the group doesn't go the way you hoped it would, that you did your best, you can learn from your setbacks, but ultimately people are responding to God as well. And that means that it's important for you to cultivate your intimacy with God, that your dependence in God flows out of your own Bible study, your own prayer time. So this is the kind of attitude that we want to encourage you to cultivate. And then the next thing as a leader is your role is to create the right environment. The right environment in transitions is people-centered, not content-centered. Now, the material is very important, but the people are more important. So you don't need to rush to finish the content in some certain time frame. Take time to process where people are at. In fact, it's a great idea to begin a group by taking time to hear everybody's stories, and that might take 1 or 2 weeks before you even get into the content. So make sure that it's people-centered, not content-centered. Now, there's an optimum size of a group, and that's around 12 plus or minus. If it's too small, the dynamics get a little awkward, especially if some people miss. If it's too large, then people don't have an opportunity to participate and be heard. You'll have to figure that out, how to deal with that if you end up with a large group. Now, this is really important to the environment. That is that you set some basic ground rules and that you follow up on them and reinforce them. The first one is that everyone in the group gets treated with respect and honor. That's simple things like no side conversations, like we're really listening to a person when they speak. A second ground rule is absolute confidentiality. Whatever's shared in the group must stay in the group. Third ground rule is that we treat people without judgment. That whatever they say, it might be right, it might be wrong, we're going to let God work on their life. We're not going to judge where they were at as a Mormon, where they're at in their journey, whether they've got all things figured out yet, because they're in process. So we're going to treat people without judgment. The fourth ground rule is that we're not going to try to fix the people in the group. That's up to God to do. And then finally, the last thing is no Mormon bashing. Now, people have their own stories, and their stories, they may have been disappointed with Mormonism. But we don't want to create an environment where that spirals into negativity and bitterness, and people just start talking derogatorily about Mormonism or attacking Mormonism, where one person feeds on the other, and you get this really negative, non-productive environment. So no Mormon bashing. So that's the right environment, but you also are going to, as a leader, are going to have to deal with practical matters. One practical matter is where you meet. Choose a place that's convenient, that's comfortable, that feels engaging and hospitable. I encourage you to plan on having snacks because that just helps people to engage a little bit more easily. Make sure you check out all the technology before you start your first group because whether you're going to stream the videos or show them on a DVD, make sure that everything works and you know how it works before everybody gets there. And then I encourage you on the first night to get people's phone numbers and email addresses as much as they're willing to share that with you. You're going to hold those confidential, but the reason you want to get those is because it's important to follow up with people after the first meeting. To at least a brief phone call or an email to touch base, to let them know you appreciate them if they have any questions and invite them to come back. Now, one practical issue has to do with how you promote transitions. A lot of churches are hesitant to talk about Mormonism or Mormon-related classes or groups from the pulpit in public on Sunday because we don't want to be seen as being the anti-Mormon church for visitors who might walk in. And I appreciate that sensibility. So you're going to have to think through how to promote it in maybe some creative ways, remembering that the best way to promote your group is by personal invitation anyway. So with those practical issues in mind, the last thing as a leader that I want to encourage you is that you need to plan to reproduce. Great leaders move from being doers to reproducers, meaning they move from people who can just do it themselves to people who are investing in other people to help other people do what they can do, reproducing themselves in the lives of others. And as you lead transitions, you're going to meet a bunch of people who at some point in the future will be qualified to lead as well. And so I encourage you, next time you start a transitions group, don't do it alone. Go recruit at least one co-leader who can lead with you, one or more who you can apprentice along the way to teach them how to lead. And so take them through this training series, but then every week give them responsibilities so that by the time you're done, they can do everything that you do. Now, this requires thinking about leadership in a different way. So thinking about not just how you're going to lead the group, but how you're going to prepare and train other people to be able to lead the group in the future as well. Now, be sure to go through all of the topics in this training series, and as you do, God is going to equip you to have a powerful influence to help former Mormons pursue God.